discussion, and we will be continuing the continuation of exception handling as part of yesterday's discussion. And yesterday we discussed what is exceptions and what are errors. We cannot handle the errors, which is syntactical errors. It has to be resolved. And exceptions are something which can be handled in a programmatically, right? For example, we have shown you two blocks, which is try and except block, and the way of declarations, and how you can declare it single try block with multiple except blocks, right? So if as an overall summary, I'm going to create a simple method. It's a divide method, which takes two arguments, a comma b, right? And it's going to give you the division of a comma b. Okay, so this is a generic method. This is a simple divide method. Okay, so when I call the divide method with both the integers, some 10 comma 2, you'll get the result. There is no problem. But as soon as I'm giving any invalid inputs, for example, I'm giving 10 by 0. In this case, we'll get 0 division error, right? And there is another thing. I'm giving numbers, valid numbers itself, but I'm giving one of the number by mistakenly I have given in a string. I've given in a string format as an instead of an integer format. Here you will get the value errors or type errors and all, right? Because you are doing a different data type divisions, so which is not possible. So all these errors can be resolved with an exception handling. So this program will terminate our normal execution of program. So how we can resolve is just try adding except and try blocks for this piece of operation. Take the same method. Let's add some more functionality to it. Okay, so this is the statement which is gonna causing our exceptions, right? So try keeping it in try and except blocks. Try block, keep it here. So this is what you're gonna return it, right? Return a by b. By mistakenly, if you are having any exceptions, what is the first exception we get it when I pass the wrong data type? So we got 0 division error, right? Let's keep that in a 0 division error. And there is another thing, we got type error. We got any of these kind of errors, let's handle it. Got exception while dividing. Now I added additional functionality to my existing method. Now let's do the same operation. I'm doing division, divide. I'm passing 10 by 0 now. In this case, I'll be getting what? 0 division error. If I perform this operation, I'll be getting 0 division error. So now, since you are handling that exception in your except block, and this print statement will be printed. Instead of raising an exception in this case. Instead of raising an exception in this way, okay, you'll just get a normal print statement. This is what it happens. See here. You just got a print statement. Your program is not stopping off execution. Got it? And now let's try with other one. So when I'm having a different data type, this one as well. Okay, so we'll move on to the except block hierarchy. Right? So when yesterday I have also given an example for default except block. Default except block. This except block will handle all kind of exceptions. For example, I'm giving try block. I'm doing a type conversion of an integer, but I'm passing along with the number, I passed one character. This time I'll definitely get exception. And except I'm handling exception. I'm not providing any specific exception here. I'm just handling it with my empty except block. So this block is called what? Default except block, right? And do print. Got exception. And print this out. Got it? Because if you are passing any characters while doing a type conversion, definitely you get an exception and that exception got handled. Correct? If I remove this and execute it, you'll not get any problem. Okay. But as soon as I'm adding any character here, you'll get exception. Got it? Now what I'm doing, let's go with this try block. I'm doing some go with a zero division error. So everybody can understand in a simple way. Let's do 5 division by 0. I'll get a 0 division error. And I'm handling that 0 division error. I'm handling that 0 division error. And print I'm 0 division, except block. What I'm doing is I'm adding this default except block. I'm handling default except block. Okay, this default except block, I'm doing it right, just to print default except block. Now what is happening is there is an exception will occur in the try block. The corresponding zero division error will be handling it, and you will get the printing statement, which is zero division except block. I don't have any concerns. But as soon as I change the sequence, I change the sequence of except block, see here what happens. Let's keep this one and top. In this case, what you get is a default except block should be always last argument, last except block. You should not keep it on top. You'll get error. Got it? Always default block should be last. Even if you read this statement, default except block should be always last. If you are keeping it to the last, I don't have any program termination or any syntactical errors. But as soon as I'm keeping it on top, definitely you'll get the exception. So you have to make sure when you are defining a default except block. So up to now, everybody understood try and except block, right? Any doubts? How you can handle a exception handling using try and except blocks. If you any piece of code will raise any exceptions, put it in a try block to handle that exception, and your exception will be handled with your except block. There is a try block, except block, the next will be else block. Syntax wise, we go with try and you go with except, then you go with else. You cannot change the sequence. A try should be first, and except should be second, and else should be third. Okay, it should be the same sequence. This is going to be your try, except, else, and finally blocks. Finally, I'll come to that. And now just understand when else block will going to execute. Else block will execute if there is no exceptions occurred in try block. Then only else block gets executed. Just understand, read this statement. And when else block will get executed is if there is no exceptions occurred in your try block, then only it gets executed. Else block will execute only if there is no exceptions in try block. So I don't like this again, duplicate. Got it? Let me show you a small demo. A try block, print, I'm having try block. This is try. See here, a single try block cannot exist. Always make sure you are having a combination of try and except blocks. And this is except. Now I'm having my else block. If there is no exception occurred, if there is no exception occurred in my try block, automatically my else block will execute. Here, the sequence will be, let's come and execute the try block. There is no exception. Since there is no exception, except block will not get executed. No exception, no except block. Got it? So then the control automatically goes to your else block because there is no exception raised in your try block. Then only else block will get executed. So that's what this statement, right? Let's print this out. The output should be try and else. The output is try and else. Got it? And let me show you another example. In your try block, there is some piece of code which is going to raise a exception. So you are doing a conversion. This conversion you are doing with some characters. You're going to get type error. Then you are having your except block. Then I'm having my else block. Got it? So now what happens? Let me go and execute try block. Try block, I executed the first statement and I'm having an exception. Since there is an exception, your except block will get executed. Then your except block will get printed. Now there is an exception in your try block, else block will not get executed. When else block will get executed? Else block will only execute if there is no exceptions occurred in your try block. Got it? So since there is an exception, automatically my else block will not get executed. I'll get only except block. See here, I got only except block. For the same piece of code, let me show you the last one, last demo. Okay, in this case, I'm not passing any invalid, I'm passing only numbers. So now type conversion can be done. So now only else will be printed. So now since there is no exceptions occurred in your try block, automatically your else block will get printed. Now else is getting executed. It is like this, man. In the try block, you are doing a background verification or any document verification. Okay, even when you go for marriage proposals, right? They do some background checks. Once your background check is passed, then only they're gonna give their daughter, right? The same thing. When they're doing any validations, if there is no exceptions raised, then only your else block will get executed. If there is any exceptions occur, if there is a bad character, somebody says that don't give to this person is having a bad character, then automatically else block will not get executed. So you'll not get married. And the last statement is finally block. The last statement is finally block. Okay. So now the sequence is going to be try, pass statement, except, pass statement, else, another pass, and finally. A typical exception handling will be done in these 4 blocks. The exception handling is all about these 4 blocks. When try block will get executed and when else block finally and except blocks will get executed. So what is the execution flow? Once you understand that much, you are good to go with your exception handling. We discussed try, except, else blocks, right? There is a concept of finally. Finally block will get executed. Finally block will get executed no matter what. No matter what. Whether exception occurred, whether exception is not occurred, I don't have any problem. I'll just execute my finally block. I'll just execute my finally block. For this, print try. let's understand this. Let me come to try block and execute it. Do I get any exceptions? No. Print it try. Since there is no exceptions, except block will not get executed. No exception in try, else except will not execute. Right? Since there is a successful verification, there is a successful completion of try block. Since there is a success, then only your else block will execute. No exceptions in try, so else will get executed. And this finally is there, right? No matter what, whether exception occurred or not, it will get executed. Okay, so let's execute this. Let's print the try block, no exception. So there is because no except block, else is there, and final block is there. So it should be finally here. So let's re-execute. Try else and finally. Simple. Let's copy the same thing. Let me show you what happens when you have an exception occurred. In your try block, you got an exception. So you got this kind of exception. Integer. Now you are doing a type conversion of a string and it's a alphabetical character. You get a type error. And now your accept block will get printed. So you will not get any print statement here. You'll get accept block. Since there is an accept block, exception has been raised, automatically else block will not get executed. Exception occurred in try block, so else block will not get executed. And finally is there, still it is there. No matter what, I will get executed. Simple. Read the statement. I have a retry block. In the try block, I have an exception. In the try block, I have an exception. Is my else block will get executed or not? So that is this statement. I'm having a try block, and when Python encounters an exception in your try block, does your else block will get executed or not? See here in the else block, exception occurred in the try block, so else block will not get executed. So that is what it meaning, right? There is a Python block which is having a try, and it is raising that exception. So it will not execute else block. Okay, good. So the next question: when does Python execute code inside finally clause? When does the final block will execute? Finally block will execute no matter what, whether exception occurred or not. So that's what I have been repeating. Okay, fine. Let's move on. So as of now, we have seen all inbuilt exceptions. All inbuilt exceptions. It can be index error, type error, attribute error, key error, zero division error. All these are what? An inbuilt exceptions. Inbuilt one. Python is providing. I'm not creating it. I'm not creating it, and Python is providing it for me. Now what I want is, I want to create my own exception. How I can do it? Let's create a class. Everything is a class in Python. Remember that. In this class, what I'm going to do is, elections is coming, right? May 13. So let's go with this election enrollment. So I'm creating an exception for people who is enrolling for elections. It should be if he is less than 18 years, I'm going to raise an exception. I'm going to raise an exception. So that kind of exception is going to be too young. He's too young, so you cannot vote it. You are too young. Okay. If you are creating an exception, your own exception, all you have to do is what? You have to inherit a base class. That base class is what? Exception. Once you inherit this base class, you are done with your own exception creation. This is your own exception. Let's do object initialization. Let's add a constructor for it. And it itself. And what is the message you want to print it? Self dot message is equal to message. That's it. Your own exception is ready now. Your own exception is ready. Got it? Let me write a small example so you can use this exception. Sir, I have created my exception, so when I can use it? So let me write small example. Let's take input from the user. Okay. So this user is going to be, I'm taking user input from the age. I'm doing the type conversion into input. Please enter your age for vote enrollment. Got it? If your age is less than 18, indicate what? Not eligible. Else block. Otherwise, you are eligible. Okay, let's do this now. And I'm passing, my age is 22. I'm eligible to vote. So since I'm eligible to vote, then let's go and cast your vote. Print, go and cast your vote. Since I'm eligible, I have to go and cast a vote, right? Let's execute now again. And now this time, this person's age is 23. You are eligible to vote, so you can go and cast your vote. Got it? Now what I'm doing is, let's re-execute. This time, I'm giving my age is 17 only. My age is 17, and I'm trying to go for casting. Okay, what I will get? I'm not eligible, but I still can go and cast a vote. This should not happen, right? Since I'm not eligible to vote, why are you allowing me to cast your vote? That's a mistake that you should not do. How we can solve this is by raising an exception. Since you're not eligible, I'm gonna raise an exception. I'm saying that you're not eligible to vote. Instead, you have to stop, right? How you can stop is, there is a way by raising an exception. By raising an exception, we can stop the person to cast your vote. Okay, how you can raise an exception is using a raise. There's a keyword, raise keyword. If you use a raise keyword and use the your exception, what is the exception you want to raise? He's a too young to vote it. So that is the exception which I'm gonna raise it. Let me modify this piece of block. Let me modify. Okay, so let's syntax wise. If you're gonna raise as a keyword, right? Syntax is going to be raise. What is the exception you're gonna raise? Too young. Is it? My own exception, any exception, you just do Just create a constructor of it. If you want to pass any message, just pass that message. Just pass that message. Got it? So that kind of message you just have to pass it. If you put a print statement, it is allowing me to vote, right? So what I'm doing is I'm going to raise the exception. I'm going to raise the exception. How I'm going to raise the exception? Use the raise keyword. Use raise keyword and raise that exception. What is it? To end. You are not old enough to vote. Okay. See here what happens. I'm giving my age is 33. I'm going to vote. You are eligible to vote. Go and cast your vote. So the persons who are eligible, they don't have any problem. So they can go and cast your vote. Right? Now what I'm doing, I'm giving his age is 15 itself. His age is 15. I'm gonna go and cast your vote. Now I'll raise an exception. I'll raise an exception. You are not eligible to vote. You are not eligible to vote. I raised it. Got it? Any doubts? So once you raise an exception, you are stopping the person to go on casting a vote. If you're not raising an exception, still he can go on casting a vote, right? Since he is not eligible, still he is going and casting a vote here. So that is the reason I'm raising an exception. Got it? Sir, as of now, we are using try exception handling to handle the exceptions. Since you are raising an exception, how that can be handled? See here, as of now, we are using what? Try block, except block, else, and finally blocks. For what? To handle an exception. But now what I'm doing, I'm raising exception by myself, and that has to be handled. Right? You cannot stop the program execution. You cannot stop the program execution. You have to continue further, right? Then what you have to do is take this entire block of code, put it in try block. That's what I told you, right? If any block of code is going to raise an exception, put it in try block. Got it? So let's put this entire thing in the try block. Because once there is an exception occurred, so then the remaining lines of code will not execute in your try block, right? Once there is an exception occurred, automatically the remaining lines of code will not get executed. Got it? Then what I'm doing, then I am handling that exception. Except, what is the exception you are getting? To any exception. When you got that exception, print the message. Can vote. Got it? Let's add else statement. The else statement, if there is no exceptions occurred, so since if he is eligible, he can go and cast a vote, right? Then take this piece of code. Since he is eligible to cast a vote, if there is no exceptions occurred, right? Take that and put it in else block. When else block will get executed? There is no exception is occurred in a try block, then else block will get executed, right? So put it in else block. Then put it in finally. So voting is done. Now voting is done. See here what happens. I'm going to execute my age. I'm going to execute and take the input from the user and validate the age, whether it is less than or greater than 18. If it is less than 80, if it is less than 80, automatically this person is not eligible to vote. Automatically this person is not eligible to vote. Okay. I'm taking the input from the user. This person's age is 34. Okay. Since you are eligible to vote, the first statement should be he is eligible to vote. Since he is eligible to vote, he can go and cast a vote. So since voting is done, so last final block will get executed. Got it? See, you are eligible to vote. Since his age is 34, he is eligible to vote, and he went and cast a vote. And now voting process is done. Voting process is done. Got it? Play with this. Okay, just play with this. Try accept else and finally blocks. If you observe carefully, if you're not by hiding it, there is totally 5 keywords. Try, accept, else, finally, and last one, rise. R-A-I-S-E. These are the 5 keywords which you're gonna use in your entire exception handling. If you understand what is try, what is accept, and what is what, then you are good with exception handling. That is all you have to know. Let's see the final demo. How much of you understand this exception handling concept? Print, block, statement 1. Copy this out. This out. This out. Statement 2. Statement 2. Rename this statements. Okay. If the statement, if there is an exception, at statement 1. This is statement 1. Okay. Statement 2, which is stmt2, comma, when there is an exception at statement 1, statement 2 and statement 3 will not get executed. Will not execute. Control goes to else block. Sorry, except block. Got it? Once except block is done, then finally. Got it? Else block will execute when there is no exception. When there is no exception in try, then only except else will execute. Got it? Since there is an exception occurred in statement 1, your statement 2 and statement 3 will not get executed. Control automatically goes to where? Except block. Okay, since there is an exception, else block will not get executed. Then control automatically comes to finally block. Got it? The same thing occurred in the statement 2. The same thing occurred at statement 2. Statement 2. Statement 1 is executed. Statement 1 is executed. Statement 3 will not get executed because statement 1 is already executed. And you got exception statement 2. And this one will not get executed. Automatically control goes to except block. Then finally block. Got it? If there is no exception occurred, then only else block will execute. And finally, this person, exception occurred or not. Finally, will get executed. Simple. Anyway, this is the statement 3 is the last statement. There is no further line to execute. Automatically, if there is exception occurred at statement 3, Control comes to accept block, then final block. Got it? If you understand this, you are good to go. See here, now this input should be statement 1, statement 2, statement 3, no exception, so no accept block. Then control comes to else. Then finally, result will be 1 to statement 1 to 3, else, and finally. Statement 1 to 3, else, and finally. Got it? So the question is, dash allows you to trigger any exception at any time. Which is allowing? Rise. This is allowing you to raise an exception whenever you want it. Use the rise keyword and it will allow you. What is the answer for this? This is rise. Okay. Dash enables you. Okay, this is not applicable. Just remove this. We'll discuss this as part of our sessions, not now. Dash executes all indented code until Python encounters an exception. It's a try block. If there is no dash catches and handles the exception that Python encounters a try clause. Which one? Which one handles our exceptions? When you have a exception in your try block, which is handling it? Which block? Your accept block. Yeah, accept. Very good. Which lets you code section that run only Python encounters no exception in the try clause. If there is no exception in a try clause, which block will get executed? No exceptions in our try block. Yes, very good. Dash enables you to execute a section of code that should always run whether or not exception occurred or not. Finally, final, very good. It is finally. That's it. Got it? So in next session, we're gonna build a small application. Okay, by using our object-oriented, by using exception handling, with all the concept, let's build a small application. So where you can use all these concepts together, whatever you learned, so you can put it there. You can make it use. It's a small project kind of thing. Next session itself. Got it? I request everyone, if any of you missed any of the classes, please do revision, brush up those concepts, so you will be on the same line. Into next class, it's going to be a project kind of, a small scale project. A small application will build it.